In an interview with the Straits Times, Joseph Schooling says he won't be quitting because there's so much more to be done. Experts are warning of more severe cases of COVID-19 here, with patients in intensive care units or requiring oxygen. And the heightened restrictions in May and June have taken a toll on Singapore's labour market. Hello, I'm Haryanto Diman. You're watching The Big Story live in the Straits Times newsroom. You can subscribe to our channel so you never miss a single episode. 131 new locally transmitted COVID-19 cases were confirmed today. 64 were linked to previous cases and on quarantine, while 15 linked cases were detected through surveillance. But there are 52 cases currently unlinked. The linked cases include 28 from the Jurong Fishery Port cluster, which now stands at 997. The Health Ministry will share further updates tonight. In a Facebook post a short while ago, Education Minister Chan Chun Sing assured parents that schools remain safe places and that implementing full home-based learning on a prolonged basis will have significant cost to our students' learning and socio-emotional and mental well-being, among other things. Mr. Chan also said that over the last 3 months, 129 students and 17 school staff have tested positive, and this is 0.03% of Singapore's total student population, from primary to pre-university levels. His update comes in the wake of a new cluster linked to a cleaner at Punggol Primary School, which has 12 cases as at yesterday. According to the Roman Catholic Archdiocese here, 4 churches were visited by COVID-positive people between July 18th and 25th. The churches are Church of the Holy Spirit along Upper Thomson Road, Church of the Immaculate Heart of Mary at Highland Road, Church of the Holy Cross in Clementi, and St. Anne's Church in Sengkang. The Archdiocese said the cases involved were asymptomatic. Meanwhile, Singapore looks to be on track to get 2/3 of the population fully vaccinated by National Day. Here's a vaccination update. As at July 28th, more than 3.2 million people, or 57% of the population, have completed the full vaccination regimen. 76% have received at least 1 dose. But for the more vulnerable, seniors 60 to 69 years old, 14% of them are still unvaccinated. Among older seniors, 70 and up, 22% remain unvaccinated. And as you can see from these 2 charts, older unvaccinated people made up a significant portion of COVID-19 patients in ICU or who needed oxygen supplementation. On the left, there are more patients who are completely unvaccinated or partially vaccinated. And on the right, most of the serious cases comprise those above 60 years old. Severe cases have tripled in the past 2 weeks, with experts warning that the figure is likely to grow. Professor Dale Fisher, Senior Consultant at NUH's Division of Infectious Diseases, joins me now. Welcome back to the show, Professor. Can you explain why you're expecting rising severe cases in the coming weeks, despite more people getting vaccinated?
Oh, it's because of the people that aren't vaccinated, Haryanto. We're getting more cases, and with more cases, we're also seeing more elderly. And at the same time, we're seeing more elderly that are unvaccinated. We're also seeing very mild disease and asymptomatic disease in vaccinated people. And we're seeing disease, unfortunately, sometimes in people that have had 1 jab. And you think, it would have been so much better had they started a couple of weeks earlier. But yeah, the prediction over more severe disease is simply because there's more cases, over 1,000 in the last week. And a good several dozen of those people are older people that are unvaccinated.
Right. And of course, the move forward would then be to advise this group of people to get vaccinated, Professor.
Well, yeah, advise everyone that's eligible to get vaccinated. you've got to remember that if you get vaccinated today, then you'll have the second jab in 3 or 4 weeks, and then maximum immunity comes a couple of weeks later. So really, it's if you had your vaccine tomorrow, then it would be another 5 or 6 weeks until you're fully covered. And we're seeing more and more cases, and I could only urge people that, especially when we start winding back on restrictions, that those people are extremely vulnerable to getting disease. It's the decision they're making. If they're making an active decision to not get vaccinated, it's a very serious decision that when it comes time, if they change their mind, it takes 6 weeks to reverse it.
Professor, with this current trend right now of expecting rising severe cases in the coming weeks, will it affect our exit from phase 2 heightened alert, do you reckon?
So there's really two things going on, Haryanto. The exiting from the heightened restrictions is going to be very dependent on the vaccine uptake. We know we've got about 55% people now that are fully vaccinated, but we also know that we're at about 77% if you include first jabs. So therefore, in 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to be pushing 80% fully vaccinated. So that's the number that's going to determine whether we move into an endemic phase. I think with Delta, it'll be hard to imagine getting the numbers down in less than a month, not adequately anyway. So the other side of the story is what's happening in this month. And while there's still 1 million people that have had one jab, not two, they're still vulnerable, plus all the people that haven't had any jabs at all. And we're closely watching the impact of that on hospital services. So can we survive the next month without making harsher restrictions? For instance, if the hospitals are getting overwhelmed, and if we can survive it, then we can go into endemic mode because so many people are vaccinated. But even then, it'll be a stepwise process because as we peel back the restrictions after everyone's vaccinated, we still need to see the impact that on those unvaccinated people.
All right, well, thank you so much, Professor, for setting aside time to speak with us. I've been speaking with Professor Dale Fisher, Senior Infectious Diseases Consultant at NUH. Overseas, as cases spike across Japan, the government today proposed states of emergency in 3 prefectures near Tokyo and Osaka. They also recommended extending existing states of emergency for Tokyo and Okinawa Island to August 31st. Meanwhile, Olympic organizers reported another 27 Games-related cases, including 3 athletes from overseas, bringing that total to 220, while Tokyo itself confirmed 3,300 cases today. Less than 24 hours after he relinquished his Olympic title, Joseph Schooling has thanked Singaporeans for their support. In a short Instagram post that's garnered over 31,000 likes and 1,500 comments, he wrote, "Thanks for all the wishes and support. It means the world to me. I'll take some time to process everything and get back to you as soon as I can. Much love from Tokyo, Majulah, Singapura." Through victories and especially in defeats, we must continue to support Singapore's national athletes. Well, that's the message public figures have urged in the wake of sad losses in swimming and table tennis last night. In a Facebook post, President Halimah Yacob said, quote, "One moment we carry people to the highest pedestal, yet the next moment we thrash them to the ground just because they fail to live up to our expectations. Yet we would ask for a dispensation for ourselves if we did not achieve something which others expect of us." Culture, Community and Youth Minister Edwin Tong acknowledged the efforts of Schooling and Kwa Cheng Wen, but more importantly, stressed that, quote, "As for the rest of us, we have to continue to support them. Cheng, Joe and all our sporting talents, even as they stumble and fail every so often. We cannot be fair weather about this, enjoying the glory when they do but criticizing our athletes when they don't. And sports commentator Mark Richmond, who also holds a post at the Singapore Sports Institute, had this to say about schooling. I remember in 2016, we all proclaimed him as a favorite son. Now it's time to put those words into action and treat him like a son. And all parents know when our sons and daughters fall short, we don't shun them. We embrace them and welcome them home with love. And this moment between schooling and his coach encapsulates just that. Coach Sergio Lopez writing on Instagram, "Over 10 years ago, we crossed paths in this beautiful life for something more than just being perfect. Thank you for this amazing and interesting journey. Let's keep moving forward." The Straits Times' associate sports editor Rohit Brijnath has a commentary out as well titled "Let's Not Forget the Ride Joseph Schooling Took Us On." Connecting from Tokyo are Rohit and sports correspondent Zali Abdul Aziz. Hi guys. Messages of support for Schooling and his fellow Team Singapore athletes coming in since last night. There's disappointment in their setbacks, but what's the important thing to remember here, Rohit?
Look, I think there has been mostly tremendous support, and it's a really gratifying thing to see. I think that athletes here, I cannot even tell you how hard they've been trying. I've seen Singapore athletes cry. They've been weeping. They're intense. I mean, everybody's giving their best. And I think fans are entitled to feel disappointed, but I think they've also got to remember these people are doing their best. I mean, Joseph didn't have a great swim, but he's doing his best. And I think athletes sometimes get a little bit nervous because they're worried, how is our country going to react? And I think Joseph today, he told us, he told Sazali and me that he was actually really moved, and that he felt a lot of empathy from Singaporeans.
Guys, you both spoke to Schooling earlier on. Now, we saw his social media post. He's still processing what happened. But did he give you more insight, Saz?
Yeah, yes, he did. He was in a reflective mood when we spoke to him. He knows his times in Tokyo have not been good. He knows there's a lot of work to be done. And basically, he's told himself that he needs to trust his coaches and trust the process more. He identified a couple of things about the preparation and about the journey to Tokyo, which he felt he could have done better. He didn't elaborate in fine detail, but he said, he and his coaches have, or rather he and his coach and his team have sort of looked back at the last 15 months and seen a couple of things they can work on. Having said that, he is still resolute. He says compared to exactly about 2 years ago when he was at the Guangzhou World Championships, he's in a much better place now physically, mentally, how he approaches races, and he just wants to keep moving forward.
And on that, looking ahead, Rohit, how clear is Schooling about his next steps? He was determined that his swimming career wouldn't end with last night's performance.
Yeah, I think he's very clear. I think in his body language today, in his words, it's very clear that he still has speed left in him. I think what happens often after defeat is that, obviously athletes are really stung. They take a little while to think about it. And I think, when he gets back to Singapore and, he has a solitude of SHN, he's going to really think about what he needs to do. But definitely, I think he wants to show people and he wants to show himself that he can still be fast.
And with all these plans, how does national service fit into all these, Sans?
Yeah, we did ask him about national service as well. And this is not the first time we have spoken to him about national service. He's been very frank. He's been very open. He's been very at ease about the reality that at some point he will serve his national service. He just says he hopes it will not come before he gets a chance to rediscover that speed and get back to where he thinks he can be. Because right now he believes as he said, I quote him, he says there's a lot more left in the tank. Hangzhou Asian Games is a real possibility for him. He's defending champion there. He's won 2 gold medals in the 100-meter fly. So, for him, he would be, upset. He would be a bit disappointed if he gets called up for national service before that. But yeah, for right now, I think that the only thing in his head is he wants to make that climb back to the top.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on to the show. My sports colleagues Rohit Brijnath and Sazali Abdul Aziz joining me from the Tokyo Olympics. Their interview with Schooling is on straitstimes.com. And that's also where you'll find complete coverage of our Olympians. Visit our microsite at straitstimes.com/Tokyo Olympics. Kwa Ting-wen is back in the pool for the 50-meter freestyle heats. Her race is at 6:31 p.m. Singapore time. A quick wrap of other local headlines before I go. According to the Manpower Ministry, the employment rate fell in the second quarter, brought about by the heightened restrictions in May and June. Excluding migrant domestic workers, it contracted by 15,700. Overall unemployment rates, though, eased further last month, down to 2.7% from 2.8% in May. But they remained elevated compared with pre-pandemic levels. Muhammad Saad Abdul Rahman, editor of Malay paper Berita Harian, will be Muiz's new president starting August 7th. Appointed by President Halimah Yaakob, Mr. Saad will take over Muhammad Alami Musa, who's stepping down after 18 years. Visit straitstimes.com for more news and videos, and remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below. I'm Haryanto Diman. Stay safe and see you next week.